Hello, and welcome to another teaching from TorahFamily.org. We are a family-based ministry that believes the whole Bible stands forever, that all of it is based in the Torah, and all of it promotes the Torah. Please visit us at TorahFamily.org for more teachings like this one. We hope this teaching helps you learn and grow in the faith. Men of Yahweh, Chapter 15, Don't Be a Fool. The title, Fool, is one that has been tossed around rather carelessly by many over the years. However, when we look at what the Scriptures say about a fool, it's rather serious. It's really not a title we should just throw out at any person. According to the Scriptures, there can be many different traits that a fool can possess. One doesn't have to retain all those different traits to be considered a fool either. One may only have one of those traits, but they could still be considered a fool in light of what the Scriptures say. While I would like to discuss all of these traits and the hazards they can bring to one's life, it would just take too long for a single teaching. I actually hope to do a series on this topic someday. But for now, let's just focus on a few of these traits and be honest with ourselves as we do. All this being said, I do want to clarify a difference that needs to be made known. I personally believe there is a difference between being a fool and acting foolishly. A fool is one who is set or unyielding in turning from their ways that are foolish. However, acting foolishly does not necessarily mean one is a fool. So while you may see a biblical trait of a fool in someone, it doesn't necessarily mean they're a fool. It could simply mean they're still growing. And let's face it, we're all still growing. However, if the individual is set and unyielding from turning from that trait, well, that's a person you want to avoid. We'll cover that later in this teaching. If you search for the word fool in any Bible concordance or Bible software, you'll find the majority of the references to that word is found in the book of Psalms, Proverbs, and Ecclesiastes. Now, before we go any further, chances are many of us are thinking, I'm not a fool. And I truly hope that's the case. However, I ask at this moment for you to let your guards down. Don't try to defend yourself or any of your actions. Please be open and honest with yourself in this. This is not a teaching where I'm trying to condemn anyone. I truly want us all to look at ourselves with honesty, to actually be brutally honest with ourselves. Don't try to sugarcoat anything. We have to be honest with ourselves. I can't underscore that enough. Okay, all that being said, let's begin looking at some verses that discusses some traits of fools and examine our lives to these verses. Ready? Here we go. I'd like for us to start off by looking at the one thing that distinguishes a fool from one who acts foolishly. Proverbs 27, verse 22. Though you grind a fool in a mortar, grinding him like grain with a pestle, you will not remove his folly from him. Let that sink in. In fact, let's read it one more time. Though you grind a fool in a mortar, grinding him like grain with a pestle, you will not remove his folly from him. This is said because fools are completely unyielding from changing in many of their ways. Their hearts are hardened. They have allowed the foolish traits to be ingrained into who they are. So, no matter what happens, their folly is always with them. They can appear to be one who is open and humble, but the bottom line will always be, you're wrong, they're right. It's a form of pride, and they're more willing to go down with the ship in hopes to save their ego than to give someone else the satisfaction of saying they're right. As sad as it is, this trait can and has been found in many leaders. But before you start thinking of those who might have this trait, the bigger question is if you have it. Of course, you don't, right? While you may not think of an example in your life at this moment, make sure your heart is open when the Spirit pricks your heart on it. The next verse to cover is one that many have said is a contradiction in the Scriptures. Proverbs chapter 26, verses 4 and 5. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you will be like him yourself. Answer a fool according to his folly, or he will be wise in his own eyes. On the surface, this can indeed look like a contradiction. Verse 4 says to not answer a fool according to his folly. However, the following verse implies we should. But this is not a contradiction. These verses are telling us it's going to be a lose-lose situation no matter how we answer a fool. The bottom line these verses are telling us is we should simply avoid the fool. As mentioned earlier, we should avoid fools, and that is precisely what this verse is telling us to do. Fools will most often do their best to make themselves appear the greater, and you the lesser. In fact, many will even present their case in a condescending manner that you are the ill-advised and they are the ones in the know. They can even say they respect you as an individual, but they will do everything they can to make sure others will think more highly of themselves than you. This is why we also read this in Proverbs 17. Better to meet a bear robbed of her cubs than a fool in his folly. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never seen a bear in the wild, and I've especially never seen a bear robbed of her cubs in the wild. I can only imagine how scary that would be. But here we are told that would be better than meeting a fool in his folly. There are two ways of looking at this. One, this is merely an over-exaggeration. Or two, we need to take being around a fool more seriously. If you see or know someone who continually takes the opportunity to make sly remarks to demean others, or just to make themselves the superior, you need to run. Run as fast as you can. Why? Because that's a trait you don't want rubbing off on your life. That's why we read this in Proverbs 13. He who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. So, while we should be running from people like this, we have to ask ourselves if we are one of those whom people should be running from. Of course, you're not the one people should be running from. It's always someone else, right? Be careful. Proverbs 28:26 says, He who trusts in himself is a fool, but he who walks in wisdom is kept safe. When it comes to the different traits of fools, Proverbs 18 gives us one to be noted. Proverbs 18:2. A fool finds no pleasure in understanding, but delights in airing his own opinions. While it could be debated if this verse is talking about understanding the Scriptures or not, do we take the time to seek understanding of another person's position? Or are we just trying to make sure people hear our side of the debate? Think about that before you answer too quickly. It takes time to sincerely seek someone else's understanding. It takes effort, and it takes patience. Can you do that? Do you do that? Or are you more bent on trying to force your understanding on them instead? If you're more bent on airing your opinion on the topic, you could be playing the fool. When that takes place, one will find themselves more apt to argue their point instead of trying to reason. And this is why we read these words in Proverbs chapter 20. It is to a man's honor to avoid strife, but every fool is quick to quarrel. So, are you quick to quarrel? It doesn't have to be a heated type of bickering either. Quarreling comes from trying to prove the other person wrong. Quite often, that happens with the motive of only wanting to prove yourself right. Many read this verse with the mindset that the fool is the one who is always hot-tempered or out of control. But that doesn't always have to be the case. Many of these traits can be alive and well in someone who is calm, cool, and collective. Though it may not be the norm, please keep in mind that one can be very relaxed while being a fool. Please keep that in mind as you reflect on these traits possibly being in you. To wrap this short teaching up on a rather large topic, I'd like to conclude with one more verse. But before I read it, I ask you to please remember that just because you may see traits of a fool that may resemble you here or there, it doesn't mean you're a fool. That would apply only if you refuse to admit and change. That being said, please consider Proverbs 30, verse 32. If you have played the fool and exalted yourself, or if you have planned evil, clap your hand over your mouth. Don't let another word out of your mouth. Get one-on-one with Yahweh and start making things right today. Again, these are just a few of the different traits that are attributed to a fool. Biblically speaking, a fool can possess many traits, or only one. The point is, we need to make sure none of these traits are active in our lives. So, take some time and reflect on these thoughts. And remember, Proverbs 17:28. Even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent, and discerning if he holds his tongue. We hope you have enjoyed this teaching. Now, it's up to you to be a Berean and study it for yourself. That's the only way to grow. Until next time, Shalom.